Okay. And if y'all notice how good looking this table looks? Doesn't it look good? Leanne Ramsey apparently did this. I tried to give Audrey the credit for it, which Audrey does a really good job on our tables. Her and Kathy did a really good job for Veterans Day. But Leanne has done a stupendous job. We gather together to ask the Lord's blessing. Always just reverberates in the head. I'm glad we sang that. But what are you thankful for? I have a lot of things I'm thankful for, and this is a prelude to the sermon here. The printer in the church office is out east, so I got to get out my computer here to help me out here with the notes. But what are you thankful for? A lot of things to be thankful for. And this little video I think is really cute. I love these skit guys. They really kind of draw things in perspective. But I think no matter what we're thankful for, the most important thing, well, I'll let the video talk about that.
You know, I'm so thankful for my car. I love my car. Yep. And I'm thankful for Twinkies. I love Twinkies. Yep. And I'm thankful for TiVo. That changed my life. Yep. And I'm thankful that I don't live in a third world country. Yep. I'm thankful for my gym membership. I mean, look at me. Yep. What do you think, Papa?
I'm thankful that Jesus died on the cross for my sins so I wouldn't have to spend eternity in hell. That's about it.
I was going to say that. I just didn't know we were talking about spiritual stuff.
Yep.
We have a lot of things to be thankful for, don't we? We really do. And we really should count our blessings. But the most important thing, I think, in many of our lives, many of our Christian people, the most important thing is Jesus Christ. Amen? Without Him, we'd be nothing. Without Him, we'd be dying, as the song says. But the topic today is the restless heart syndrome. Last week we talked about affluenza. Affluenza is not a real virus, but much akin to a virus. It spreads and it ruins lives as a disease. We get caught up in this affluence game. We want more stuff. Well, this is one of its cousins. This is restless heart syndrome. Y'all probably heard of restless leg syndrome. A lot of people have restless leg. It feels like your legs have to move, and maybe in the bed or something you can't sleep because it feels like you have to move your legs. Well, restless heart syndrome is not exactly like that, but it's a sense that we're not content with what we have. We always have to have more and different stuff. Here's a bit of a test for you. Imagine there is some sort of wildfire or a massive hurricane coming this way, and you have to evacuate. You have to run home right quick, and you have to grab something and flee. Up near where Mama lives, when I was a teenager, I used to think about this a little bit because I lived near McGuire, and if those sirens went off, what could I grab and go and be gone for maybe 20, 30 years before the radiation wears off, right? What would you grab if there was a big wildfire or something? You had some reason you had to evacuate town. You couldn't come back for maybe weeks or a month. What would you grab? If there's a big wildfire, maybe everything would be destroyed. What would you grab? You had one trip. Think about that. That's a hard decision, isn't it? What would you grab? You know, maybe important documents, maybe pictures, things that you couldn't replace. Some people might grab that big old TV if they watch too much. Maybe a computer, or maybe all those dresses, or maybe those jackets or something. What would you grab? You see, I fear in our society today that many would go back more than once and try to grab too much. I can see now as the wildfire is right at the perimeter of the property, and I'm running in the house, and I got to have this, well, I got to have that too. I got to have that too. Keep running back in, and the fire probably would consume me because I want more stuff. Imagine that. Some people would go back in to get so much stuff that they couldn't flee because many of us are not content with what we have. And part of that is because our stuff owns us, not us owning our stuff, right? And like we mentioned last week, if you just think about how much we have in our society today, many people, not everybody, many people have so much stuff that we have outbuildings, or we rent a storage shed somewhere, a storage unit somewhere, to put all the junk that we don't use. Go to my attic, or our attic I should say, and go to our storage building. Some of that stuff's so covered in dust and haven't been used forever because we have too much stuff. You see, we have restless heart syndrome, many of us here in this country today, and sadly a lot of Christians have restless heart syndrome. We're not content with what we have. We have a lot of discontent, don't we? And I think one of the key things that we as Christians need is more thankfulness. If we're more thankful for what we have, we'll be a little more content. That's what I want to talk about today with this restless heart syndrome. Now, I borrowed a little Shakespearean prose here on this next slide here. Shakespeare talked about the winter of our discontent. I'm not the biggest fan of Shakespeare, but he was very important for our language. This is our age of discontent. We live in the age of discontent, don't we? We have huge box stores all around that will sell us anything we have money to buy or anything we have credit to buy, right? All kind of junk from all over the world. Things we need and we don't need. If we can't get it from a store, we can go online and order from Amazon. Trust me, I order too many things from Amazon. Everybody here, she shake her head, yes. Things I don't need. We're not content with what we have. You see, this is the age of discontent. The Bible says a little bit about this restless heart syndrome because, you know, we're not content with our stuff, our jobs, our churches, and our marriages. But you know, it's not a new thing, is it? Even back in the age of Solomon in the Old Testament, people weren't content then either. Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verses 10 through 11 talk a little bit about this. Anything I wanted, I would take. I denied myself no pleasure. Even found great pleasure in hard work, a reward for all my labors. I denied myself no pleasure. Think about that. We live in a society where whatever you want, you just do it. Go for it. There are no rules, no right, no wrong. Just go ahead and do it. We live in a society where a lot of people live like that. They're not content with how things are. They just want to do whatever they want to do. They live at their own pleasure. Now the next line there, I even found great pleasure in hard work, a reward for all my labors. There's a lot of people in our society that are workaholics. They have to have more money. They have to get that next echelon in their job. They have to get a little higher rank of promotion. They have to have more and do more. They're not content. They keep trying and striving. They find pleasure in that. But, as the writer of Ecclesiastes tells us, but as I look at everything I had worked so hard to accomplish, it was all so meaningless, like chasing the wind. There was nothing really worthwhile anywhere. I looked at everything I had worked so hard to accomplish. Meaningless. Meaningless. You know, one of the things I've come to realize, and I definitely saw this working in the grocery business for a major company, is that a lot of jobs, it doesn't matter how hard you work, you're replaceable. You're just a commodity to be replaced. And sadly, a lot of our culture, a lot of companies in our culture today, especially these big companies, you're just a number. You're just a cog in the wheel. So it doesn't matter necessarily how hard you work or how much money you make for the company, you're replaceable. Somebody else will do it. Somebody else is hungry. It's meaningless. It doesn't matter how big your bank account is, how big your house is, no matter how much you've accomplished or accumulated in your life. It doesn't really matter. It's all like chasing the wind. You ever try to chase the wind? It's like a dog chasing his tail. A dog never catches his tail normally, right? We ain't going to chase the wind. And if we think we've caught it, guess what? It's just the wind and ain't nothing to catch. There's nothing really worthwhile anywhere. Ecclesiastes is a little pessimistic. When I get my Eeyore down bit, you know, Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, I get a little down in life, I read Ecclesiastes. It fits, but I want you to take away some things from this, though. Think about the Old Testament. There's a lot of discontentment in the Old Testament. Not just in our society, but it's an Old Testament thing too. Think about the Tower of Babel in Genesis chapter 11. You see this crowd comes to this plain, and they're not content with the way life is. What do they want to do? They want to reach up to heaven. They want to be like God. So they build this huge tower, and start building this huge tower to try to get up to the heavens to be like God, to get to Him, to be like Him. And we know the story of the Tower of Babel. Guess what happens? God sees that these people they're so discontent trying to be like God. They're not content with all the blessings they have, that He confuses their language. And I suppose that's how we have so many different languages in the world today. A lot of it comes from discontentment. The New Living Translation says, "Come, let us build a great city for ourselves, a tower that reaches up into the sky. This will make us famous." Famous. They wanted to be famous. Look what happened to them. Numbers chapter 11 is an interesting story, interesting glimpse in the life of the children of Israel in the wilderness. And I jokingly say this, half-jokingly say this, I think the children of Israel in the wilderness were Baptist. Because they complained all the time. Right? Well, Numbers chapter 11 is one of those snapshots of their complaining nature. And none of y'all complain, do you? Brad, you complain all the time, don't you? It's all Brad's fault. Love you, Brad. I'm glad you're back. The children of Israel, they complained so much. In fact, over in verse 1, they complained about the wilderness so much that God got angry. They complained about the hardships of the journey. Oh, it's so long, it's so long. I can imagine my kids in the back seat, especially when we traveled to Baltimore this past summer. Oh, it's so far, it's so long, are we there yet? They complained, didn't they? They weren't content. God had rescued the Israelites, the Hebrew children, out of slavery, out of bondage, out of beating, out of dying, and they were complaining because the trip was taking too long. That sounds like a Baptist, doesn't it? Go down a few verses, and start in verse 4 through 35. They complain about the manna. They were hungry, they were starving, there was no food in the wilderness. So what did God do? God provided manna and quail. But the manna, it got nasty after a day. They just wasn't content with the manna. They were getting sustenance. They were being fed by God Himself. But they weren't content with that, were they? Oh, but those vegetables and the meat we ate back in Egypt, that was so good. They complained. They weren't content, even though God provided. Go down to verse 35. We find that even Moses' own family, his sister and his brother, complained about Moses' leadership. He's not a good leader. His wife's worthless. She's not one of us. We need new authority. We need new leaders. They complained and they moaned and they groaned. They were discontent with every situation. They weren't happy with what they had. Like the writer of Ecclesiastes says, no, it was all meaningless. All meaningless. Meaningless. We Americans are not content, are we? We Christians aren't content, are we? And I hate to say this, and like I said, I jokingly say that children of Israel in the wilderness were Baptist. We as Christian people complain way too much. And I understand we want to make this church better, and we all have things that we don't like about this church or about the life of this church. But instead of complaining and not being content, let's be happy that we've got a church. I read a tweet yesterday from a gentleman who's a church replanting expert at North American Mission Board. And it's staggering the number of churches each day that close their doors. They put a for sale sign in front of the church. They don't exist anymore. Or the churches that have to merge with another church. Maybe they have these huge, two churches have huge buildings. And they maybe use one or two rooms. They have to merge. And it's a painful process. Churches in our area are sharing space because they're not as vibrant as they used to be. And the next step might be closing. We need to be happy we have a church. we also need to work hard to make it better for God, right? We need to stop this complaining. We as Americans and we as Christians need to be content with God alone, not with stuff. You see, the antidote, the different way is a Christian antidote. To be content with God and content in God's caring for us. Paul talks a little bit about this over Philippians. He says, how I praise you, Lord, praise the Lord that you are concerned about me again. Paul's writing to the Philippian congregation. Now, mind you, Paul's writing the Philippian letter, or the letter to the Philippian congregation from prison. He's in jail. And if you read the letter to the Philippians, guess what? You find the word joy more in that little small letter than you do anywhere else in one document, the Old Testament or New Testament. It's so filled with joy. Joy. Paul's in prison. He's talking about joy. How I praise the Lord that you are concerned about me again. I know you have always been concerned for me, but you didn't have the chance to help me. Not that I was ever in need, for I have learned how to be content with whatever I have. I learned how to be content with whatever I have. Now, some of y'all that went back in the spring can testify to this about the shoe sale. Some of y'all, the ones that went yesterday, can testify to this. Which, by the way, I'm wearing some new shoes. I'm not content. Let's talk about me here. The walking company, Big Dog Outlet near my house, they've got this big shoe sale every year, and tons of people come in and they line up. We stood outside in the cold wind at 10 o'clock, around 10 o'clock yesterday morning, 40 degrees outside, waited 30 minutes to get in to buy shoes. And I bet you, if you went in our respective closets, you'd probably trip over all the shoes that are in our closets. It's not content. And all the people that were trying to get in there and find the right shoe and pick and prod and steal shoes out from other people and cut, it's not content with what they had. We're not content, are we? You see, Paul wrote this letter from prison. He could have been in a lot better places, but he was content with where God had him at the moment. God had him in prison, believe it or not. I know how to live on almost nothing or with everything. Now think about this. Paul may have grown up in a household where he had a good bit. If some of the scholars are right, Paul may have been a leather worker or a tent maker of some sort. He may have learned trade from his father. The father may have been a freed slave. May have had a little bit of money. Paul may have had a little bit of money. He may have grown up in a little bit of affluence. But he also had moments where he had nothing at all when he was traveling. When he was preaching the gospel, he may have had almost nothing. In fact, Paul was even stoned a few times during the gospel. You ever had people stone you, throw rocks at you, try to kill you? Paul did. I've learned the secret of living in every situation, whether it is with a full stomach or empty, with plenty or little. Paul knew what it was like. Now, a lot of us know what it's like to have a lot. Some of us know what it's like to have very little. One of the blessings I've had in ministry was to participate when I was at New Bethel with the youth in doing 30-hour famine. It's a really neat program that World Vision does where children or teenagers, what have you, even some adults, go 30 hours without eating. Now, of course, you can drink juice or drink water, some allow juice, some don't. Gatorade, things like stuff they say hydrate, but you can't eat food for 30 hours. And a few times I've done it, y'all know me, y'all see me eat, I've about died. Okay? I'm joking, being a little facetious, but it was a different experience for me. And a lot of these teenagers had a different experience with it, going 30 hours without eating. And the whole time you do different programs, you do search projects, you talk about the need for in the community and in the world for food, how food is scarce. In fact, one year when I did with the kids, I let them eat a little bit. And here was the deal. I gave them, I forget how much money I gave them, but it was based off of the average amount a person gets per day with food stamps to eat. And they could buy very little. And one of the things was when I took them to the grocery store, gave money, but they had to have parameters. You need to try your best not to get something high in sodium, something high in fat. Try to get something that's not as processed, but something that's going to hold you, something high in fiber or protein. Had kids, have enough money to maybe buy a box of crackers. That's high in sodium, but that helped them. Buy a can of green beans. This is small things, ramen noodles. Things I lived off of in college, ramen noodles. These kids who many of them didn't lack for anything. They were blessed in their homes to be able to eat and live well. They had learned what it was to live on very little, at least for a little glimpse of a sliver. And we'd always top off the 30 hours by spending the night outside in boxes, sleeping out in the chillies in the springtime, the chilliness. Luckily, since I was a leader, I broke the rules and I slept in the back of the truck, in the bed, in a sleeping bag. I didn't sleep on the ground. I didn't want some animal messing with me. But give the kids a little bit of a glimpse of what it's like not to sleep in bed, not to have a tent over your head, to be a little bit like those who don't have very much. To give them this perspective, a little bit of this perspective that Paul had, that the stuff's really not that important. What's really important is God. And God carrying us through the lean, and God carrying us through the time of abundance. Because Paul wrote, "For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. Even so, you have done well to share with me in my present difficulty. For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength." You see, Paul wrote this infamous or famous verse, I should say, about contentment. Not about some athlete claiming Philippians 4:13, I can win this ball game for Jesus. Let's take it out of context. Paul wrote this verse about us trusting in God, leaning on God in the hard times of life and in the good times of life for all that we need and all that we have. You see, it's easy to go to God and to call to God and cry out to God when we're hurting, when we need stuff, and we don't have a lot. Many of those that are the most pious and blessed are those that have very little, because their God's not their stuff. See, it's really hard for us to lean on God and to rely on God and to trust in God and to receive our strength from God when we have so much abundance. We get that discontentment, that affluenza, or that restless heart syndrome that pulls us away. And we're not very thankful for what we have. You see, Paul knew what it was like to have very little and have a lot. He was thankful for what he had. What really mattered in his life wasn't the stuff, wasn't the things, but it was God Himself. God Himself. In fact, over in 1 Thessalonians 5:18, Paul wrote, "Be thankful in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you who belong to Christ Jesus." Be thankful in all circumstances. When the house burns down and you lose everything, be thankful. When a loved one dies, and you try to put all the pieces back together, be thankful. When you lose your job, you don't know how you're going to pay the bills, be thankful. But also, when you've got a great job and things are going well and paying well, and you have no want, be thankful. When you're in a loving relationship with someone, and that person's with you forever and a day, and you're on bliss, be thankful. Be thankful in the good, in the bad, in all circumstances. And it's hard for us, isn't it? Our society out there screams, get more, have more, want more. You need more stuff. You need this. You need love from here, love from there. We're not content. We're not thankful for what we have. We must be thankful in all circumstances. There's a rock ballad, a Big Hair ballad that came out in the 80s. You don't know what you got until it's gone. Some of y'all may know that song. I'm not a big fan of it, but you don't know what you got until it's gone. And many of us need a situation in our life where we lose the things that have been, were our little gods, I should say, our things that draw our heart away from God, the things that drive our discontentment. You see, many of us in some ways need to remember those situations in life where we haven't had a lot. Maybe our relationships have been fleeting. Maybe our finances have been fleeting, maybe our health's been fleeting. Maybe we need to think of those moments and think about those times of lean and bear. And think about how we needed God in those moments. Next clip, I'm going to show you another clip. I'm a video guy, unfortunately. I'm a TV generation. I blame my mom for putting me in front of TV. Mom, it's all your fault. It helped babysit, right? I do it with the kids too, unfortunately. I'm going to show you a clip from a movie, one of my favorite movies called Evan Almighty. And of course, it's a comedy. And some of y'all may have seen it. It's about a guy named Evan. He's a congressman, and it's like a Noah situation. God comes to him, says there's going to be a flood. He starts building this boat in a modern-day America, in a modern suburb of D.C., and people think he's crazy. His wife, she finally had last straw. She takes the kids, and they leave. And in this movie, Morgan Freeman plays God, actor Morgan Freeman. And I joked around with some of them earlier. I said, if I get to heaven and God doesn't look like Morgan Freeman, I'm going to be a little disappointed. And of course, that's a joke. Morgan Freeman, he has this air about him. But you'll notice Morgan Freeman, the African-American fellow, is a waiter in this scene. And his name on his name tag is Almighty, like Almighty, Almighty. It's a comedy, mind you. But sometimes, well, we'll let you watch the clip here.
Oh, excuse me, can I get a refill, please?
Coming right up. Excuse me, are you alright?
Yeah. No, it's a long story.
Well, I like stories. I'm considered a bit of a storyteller myself.
My husband, you heard of New York's Noah?
The guy who's building the ark.
That's him.
I love that story. Knowing the ark. You know, a lot of people make the point of that story. They think it's about God's wrath and anger. They love it when God gets angry.
What is the story about then, the Ark?
Well, I think it's a love story about believing in each other. You know, the animal showed up in Paris. They stood by each other, side by side, just like Noah and his family. Everybody entered the ark, side by side.
But my husband says God told him to do it. What do you do with that?
Sounds like an opportunity. Let me ask you something. If someone prays for patience, you think God gives them patience? Or does He give them the opportunity to be patient? If they pray for courage, does God give them courage, or does He give them opportunity to be courageous? If someone prays for the family to be closer, do you think God's absent with warm, fuzzy feelings? Or does He give them opportunities to love each other? Well, I got one. A lot of people to serve. Enjoy.
It's the miracle of the loaves and fishes. He multiplied the fried fish and french fries, right? It's all about opportunity, is what the God character in this movie said. And that's true. If you need a better, thankful heart, don't pray for thankfulness. Pray for opportunity. Many of us have had those opportunities in life that we needed to rely on God to be thankful for the lean times in life. I was used to hear stories of Grandma and Grandpa growing up in the Depression about how lean it was. They loved God and relied on God. Many of us go through those times in life where we need God. But when things get better, we forget about it. We push it to the side. Maybe we don't rely on it as much. We're not as content and thankful. Pray that God gives us the opportunity to be thankful. This Thanksgiving season, it's all well and nice to send things to Dallas High Show's ministry, but if you've got a chance, go there and volunteer. See those people that really need it. Be the hands and feet of Jesus. You maybe want a perfect family. Pray for the opportunity to be thankful for the family you have. For a perfect job. Many of us want that perfect job, which, by the way, this is a pretty close to perfect job being your pastor. I think I love it. Don't fire me anytime soon, please. If you want a perfect job, pray for opportunity to work well at your job. Thank God for the job you got. Be thankful. Oh, it's hard. I'm so bad. You can ask my wife, I'm bad at this. I'm so discontent with things. I'm unhappy with things, the way things are. I'm not good at this. I need this sermon. I'm not thankful for what I've got. But I pray that God will give me the opportunity to be thankful. May not be happy, may not be good, but I'll be a better person on the other side. As musicians come and as we sing, maybe you need more thankfulness and contentment in your life. Maybe you need an opportunity to rely on God and be thankful to God for what you have. The altar is open if you need to pray and make a commitment to God to be more thankful this Thanksgiving season. To not rest so much in the stuff, but rest and abide in the Almighty. And be thankful for Him and what He has given us already and what He continues to give us and bless us with.
Can we please all rise for number 512, O Perfect Love?